All right, let's roll right into this finale. Get it? Because the bug guys curve their bodies, and centripetal force, what we call rolling. Anyway, let's get back to where we left off with Kate and Hamtaro. Now, I thought for sure Hamtaro was going to go weak in the knees and fall back in line with Monarch. Turns out I was wrong, and Hamtaro is deciding to double down this episode. Like, really double down, which I definitely approve of. So he rats out Kate, who is once again hauled off and thrown into a small room. Now, as soon as she was put in there, I'm sure we all thought to ourselves, okay guys, where's the air vent? Come on, girl is so tiny she could slip out through a power socket. However, I just want to address another trope here that bothers me whenever I see it. Now, plenty of times in films and shows, we'll see a character taken prisoner, and they'll be locked in some room. For some reason, their first instinct is to pound on the door they were just forced through. What is the endgame there? Firstly, obviously, they're not going to open up. Secondly, if they do, you're probably going to catch some hands. In what reality does the guard lock a person in a room, the person knocks, and the guard goes, "Well, we're no match for that level of spirit. On your way now, little missy." I mean, if that worked, you may as well not even have a security team.
This is foreshadowing for later.
Kate eventually finds the Deus Ex air vent and tries to pry it open with a paperclip. However, she winds up cutting her hand in the process. For some reason, we're given a close-up to highlight this, and I was wondering why they chose to do that.
Tetanus. Nice one.
The irony is that though Kate is going to be thrown around in the middle of a kaiju battle in a few minutes, the only wound she sustains this episode is from this paperclip. Wow. Anyway, Paperclip uses her knowledge as a science teacher to burn some stuff and loosen the screw on the vent. I guess that's why they reminded us she was a science teacher last episode. Aha, so she's smart. Paperclip makes her way through the tunnels and winds up surfacing right next to a very angry Koko. Now, if I were in her shoes, I'd quietly go back down the tunnel and she slammed it shut. Ah, so smart. On the other side of things, May and Tim intercept and hijack one of Isabel's patrols. When they regroup with Shaw and Keiko, Tim says the patrol abandoned their vehicles at gunpoint. Say what you will, I like this line. Sure, he stranded those unarmed geologists in the Skull Island jungle, so they're certainly dead, but yeah, go Tim. Keiko then tells Tim she has a recording of the Titan language from her experiments with Paperclip. Why wasn't this discussed on the way here as a possible strategy to use on Koko? Why is the only copy of the Titan language not secured on the boat? Because plot. Shaw takes the recording and goes to commandeer the helicopter they saw earlier, while the rest of the group goes to the Monarch bunker, arriving at the same time as Kong. As Kong and Koko begin their fight, they spot Paperclip caught in the middle, so Krusty Pillow drives through the monster battle to save her. Let me clarify. When I say drive through, I don't mean she drives around the fight, or picks a safe lane at opportune times. I mean Krusty Pillow drives through the clashing of two giant monsters. Don't you love when characters recognize their own plot armor? Once she gets through to Paperclip, Krusty Pillow takes her towards the bunker door that she could have run to the entire time. So smart. Meanwhile, Tim, May, and two Monarch troops enter the compound. Seeing this, Isabel begins panicking like a teenage girl, saying she's in so much trouble and Daddy isn't gonna bail her out of this one. How respectable for our lead villain. Also, just want to remind you that counting Tim, Isabel is admitting this entire operation is about to be stopped by a mere 3 armed men. Remember episode 8 when an army of Isabel's men rolled up to take Koko's eggs? Well, I guess those guys had to clock out because apparently she has absolutely no security. I guess we'll just forget about the guys that hauled Kate away just a few minutes earlier. I like how our heroes overcome threats by having the writers remove them from the story. I was telling my girl about this scene, and she said that Isabel must have only gotten the trial version of Henchman. That bitch cracks me up. Also, another shout out to Tim, who tackles this random dude in a hallway. Dude, you are on fire today. Seeing that the jig is about to be up, Hamtaro cranks Koko's synaptic drive up to 11 and leaves with Isabel. That's when Koko starts dominating Kong. I mean, she really gives him a run for his monkey money. Monarch bursts into the control room and everyone immediately surrenders. Now it's May's moment to shine as she gets on the controls to shut off Koko's probe. Time to redeem herself after that failed experiment in Santa Soledad. Except she can't do anything. She's powerless to stop the machine. Well, thanks for stopping by, I guess. As the fight continues, one of the two Monarch soldiers encounters Hamtaro and Isabel as they flee the site. Now, this was a weird moment for me. I haven't mentioned this guard before, but last episode May was constantly bagging on him, saying that he's never been to Skull Island before like she has, and he has no idea the danger he's in. Bear in mind, she came to this island of death dressed like Miss Teagues from Abbott Elementary. I mean, if she could survive this island, I'm sure anyone could. Now, this same guy runs into Hamtaro and Isabel. Let me just go over this dialogue real quick. Monarch guy says, "You Kentaro Randa? I need you both to come with me now." Hamtaro then says, "He's from Monarch, he's here to help." Isabel then says, "Good, I thought you'd never come." Now, in my head, I thought, oh damn, Hamtaro actually recruited a Monarch defector to help him and Isabel escape. My boy's really thinking ahead. That makes sense why May was coming down on him so hard last episode. It was foreshadowing his betrayal. I respect Hamtaro for making his own moves in the background and securing an escape. Then Isabel just punches the guy in the throat and they move on. Oh, so it wasn't a clever reveal, just more Monarch incompetence. Cool. I feel compelled to point out once again that Isabel and Hamtaro are fleeing because of 3 armed Monarch personnel, and even though her security force magically disappeared, Isabel was able to take one of them out single-handedly. What was the threat again? What's stopping you from grabbing his rifle and going back for the rest of them? I guess the plot. Cut back to Kate and Keiko, who are met by Tim and May at the bunker door. As they take refuge, Koko spots her egg inside. Her motherly instincts overwhelm the Napex probe and she breaks free of its control.
Her instincts were stronger than any computer code I could write.
Gay.
Koko then grabs the egg, shows it to Kong, and he immediately understands the situation. He then takes a seat on top of a nearby cliff and watches as Koko leaves with her egg. Damn, Kong is one smart chimp. I mean, not only to recognize Koko's motives for fighting him, but also having the emotional intelligence to snap himself out of a fight to the death and let his opponent go. Makes you wonder what would have happened if Kong caught up to Koko in episode 1. Maybe he was just concerned for the health of the child. A true gentleman. Things aren't over yet though, as Koko departs, but headed away from the portal. Shaw then shows up in the commandeered helicopter so they can help guide Koko home. But before they go, Kate runs over to Hamtaro and Isabel, who just happen to be boarding a chopper within walking distance. Don't see why the group doesn't just go secure them too, but fine, I guess we'll have a season 3. Kate begs Hamtaro to stop his plans to bring back their father, claiming it's impossible. Hamtaro says that bringing Kate back from Axis Mundi was impossible too, before they succeeded. That's actually a fair point. Hamtaro also tells her Hiroshi went into Axis Mundi, so it's possible he's still there. She doesn't really have a reply to this and lets Hamtaro leave with Isabel. Kate then jogs back to the group and they pursue Koko. Now it's May's time to shine, using the recorded Titan language to guide Koko to the portal. Except she fails to do so, and the machine breaks. Well, thanks for stopping by, I guess. Now it's up to Kate, who secures herself with a harness and stands at the back of the chopper. Koko sees Kate and is compelled to follow her. We then get a flourishing of music as we see Kate being special and having this connection with the Titan. After landing near the portal, Koko tenderly touches tips with Kate before disappearing into Axis Mundi. I gotta ask, does anyone feel like this was earned? I mean, why does Kate have a connection with Koko? Earlier in my reviews, I assumed it would be explained as her having some kind of Iwi ancestry or something, but we're never actually given a reason why she's special. She just suddenly is. This was a payoff I was really hoping for throughout the series, and it's very disappointing that the only reason this happens is because the plot needed it to. Seriously, defenders of this show, tell me, how is this good writing? Once Koko is gone, the portal remains open. That's when young Shaw appears as a Force Ghost, gives a nod to Keiko and Shaw, and disappears. Turns out I was mistaken in believing they would bring young Shaw into the current timeline. Hard to believe they're going to try to fit an entire series in between this transition. Now we cut to 6 weeks in the future, where Kate and Koko stand before a memorial wall for fallen Monarch members. The Monarch director points out Keiko's plaque and says that they kept it up to avoid people asking questions. I just want to point out, there are 49 other plaques on the wall, and Koko directly accounts for 16 of them. Hiroshi, Verdugo, and 14 on that patrol boat. Being that Kate released Koko, her presence here feels very inappropriate. Her actions account for a third of the losses Monarch suffered in its 70-year run. Aren't we worried people might ask questions about that? Well, I guess the families of the fallen will appreciate the monster that brutally killed their loved ones got a happy ending. It's ironic because after seeing the memorial for her victims, Kate asks the director if Monarch's gonna throw her into asset management. I mean, they should. Like, what else would it take? Instead, he offers her a job. Not just any job, but a job running Monarch 2.0. Kate then asks, "Is this your way of throwing us a bone?" Lady, you should be buried under the prison. Your actions got good men killed, including your father. Now you're being offered a get-out-of-jail-free card as well as a management position, and you're being snarky? Just last episode, you accepted responsibility for your actions, and now you're acting offended when in the face of all logic, you are being rewarded for them? Yeah, just for that, I'm gonna throw in that guy who got killed by the Scarabs, as well as the 4 other team members who died in episode 9. Now that's 21 Monarch employees plus 2 civilians who got killed. Throwing me a bone. You're testing me, woman. Let's just cut to the last scene where Shaw meets a man in Thailand who helped Isabel and Hamtaro. It seems they're going to continue their plan by using a different Titan to open a portal to Axis Mundi. And which Titan will that be? Motherfucking Rodan. Thus concludes Season 2. Wow, okay. A lot of interesting ideas were set up this season that ultimately didn't wind up getting paid off. I was dying to see Hamtaro and Isabel do some time travel shenanigans, but I guess we'll wait to see if that goes anywhere next season.
I'll see you soon.
Maybe. I was really hoping for an explanation as to why Kate is special, but we were never given any answers. She's just amazing the way she is. May? Damn, bro, I don't even know why she's still here. Besides her role in the Apex heist in episode 4, which ultimately ended in failure, she fails at everything she attempts. She can't control Koko. She can't shut down the controls to Koko. She can't even operate a speaker system effectively. Her presence in the latter half of the season was utterly moot, only offering up a collection of snarky looks and passive-aggressive comments. Even the hints towards her attraction to Brenda and Kate go nowhere. I like that her sole contribution was developing a means to piss off the Titans as much as the audience. Shaw was the only character with forward momentum. He planned the Apex heist, summoned Godzilla, and is still on Isabel and Hamtaro's trail by the end of the series. Even his past self was able to put the tracker on Koko. He is the gas in this show. I'd say the only character more useful than him would be Billy, who has the most compelling arc of the series and basically charts the journey for our characters. Keiko, on the other hand, is just trapped in place, constantly lamenting all she's missed, whilst not familiarizing herself with the new world she finds herself in, nor going through anything that can be described as an arc. She basically cheats on her husband and then reacts to how her actions changed him. Tim stepped up in a leadership role, yet still retained enough meekness to become just another cog in the machine. Damn, and he was doing so well this finale. Isabel only appeared in the latter half of the series, so we didn't get a lot of time to really flesh her out, nor did we get a chance to see her plans through. Brenda disappeared from the story entirely, and Cliff Curtis came back just to be killed off. In terms of monsters, holding off on the action in service of following unlikable characters on their non-journeys negatively affected my engagement. Who'da thunk? I would have appreciated a peppering of monster action here and there, but getting a Godzilla dream sequence 4 hours in really soured my opinion of this series. In fact, the only time we do get a peppering of non-hypothetical monster action in the first half, it undermines the way we're supposed to look at Koko in the context of the story. I definitely like the latter half of the season, even if it didn't stick the landing as well as I hoped. I like seeing Godzilla and Kong's behavior outside of world-ending threats. I was intrigued by the introduction of time travel shenanigans, even if we didn't see them through. This sucks because they really got me rooting for Hamtaro before they had him abandon his plans in the finale. All in all, I'd say this season had a lot of fat to trim. I mean, what really happened? Kate released Koko on Skull Island, then felt bad about it for a whole episode. Monarch attempts to steal a machine from Apex to lure it, but fails. Apex attempts to control Koko, but fails. Hiroshi dies and the characters take time to mourn. Hamtaro joins a new faction to try and bring his father back, but fails. Then Koko goes home. It becomes a situation where the setup is more interesting than the plot at hand. Yes, I remember the anime series too. At roughly 45 minutes per episode, we're looking at a 7.5 hour runtime for Season 2. Did you really need that long to tell this story? So much time is dedicated to the CW drama aspect of this show that it dilutes the urgency of the situation. Sometimes you forget that Koko was a threat, and by the end, the show makes you try to forget that she ever was. She was just a hapless mother scooting around the ocean looking for a way home. Aww. I'm still holding out hope for Hamtaro to wow us in Season 3, but I'm going to assume based on everything we've seen of him so far, he'll probably spend most of that season sighing and looking away ashamed. Just as sure as I am that Kate will stand there looking pouty, as sure as I am that May will be sarcastically rolling her eyes. I swear, it's like each of these characters has a single input to emote. Wimpy, pouty, snarky. It's been 2 seasons, and it's as though none of our characters have developed despite the show supposedly being about character development. It's amazing to me that fans still try to make that claim whenever people complain about the lack of monster action. I can assure you that I'll never rewatch this season, even though I would say it's better than Season 1. There are aspects that I liked about Season 2, but they're too few and far between. A major problem is that by season's end, we're left with a lot of unanswered questions. Does Apex ever face consequences from duping the American military? Why did Monarch release May after she teamed up with Apex? Why does Kate get rewarded for releasing Koko? What was that goofy fish the villagers sacrificed? What happened to the crusty pillow? What was the point of the scarabs, and where did they all go? What happened to the rest of Isabel's men? Why is Kate able to communicate with Koko? Why is she against Hamtaro trying to bring back her father when he did the same for her and she did the same for Shaw? It's pretty clear by the end that Hamtaro might be onto something with that. Of course I'm excited to see Rodan return to the Monsterverse. Who isn't? I'm also curious to see if it's the same Rodan or possibly a sibling, which would be a great reference to its original film. At the end of the day, it feels like the most compelling plot lines offered up by this season are to be concluded at a later time, which is pretty discouraging considering how much time we've already had to invest. Fans claim this show is more about the characters, but the characters, for the most part, don't change, and let's face it, aren't likable. I would classify the show as mid-tier. Definitely seen worse, but there's certainly room for improvement. I will admit, it caught me off guard a few times, and I even shed a man tear for Billy, but that still isn't enough for me to hold this show in the esteem that other fans seem to. If you enjoyed this season of Monarch, more power to you. I'm just holding out hope for Monarch Red and Supernova. If you enjoyed my breakdown, drop a like and subscribe. If you didn't, may your pillows be forever crusted. Video over.